is trying. Welcome to the most dangerous planet that can't be killed. And you're here to prove we might not be alone in the...
Jet yol найчиш.
Predator Badlands 20 and 25. Is it the next big Predator hit or just hype? We break down the movie review, facts, story, and everything you need to know. Total saver, watch Sonu Hub for the full breakdown. Let's enter the Badlands by your Predator. Badlands is a 2025 American sci-fi action movie directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Eisen. Based on a story created by Trachtenberg and Eisen, it is the seventh movie in the Predator franchise. The movie stars Elle Fanning and Demetrius Schuster-Kolamatangi in the lead roles. The story follows Dek, a young Yoja, which is the alien species known as the Predator. Dek gets kicked out of his own clan and ends up crash landing on a dangerous and hostile planet. Now, he has something to prove to earn his place and show that he is worthy of being a true hunter. Dek has to take down a powerful apex predator. But things get way more complicated when he teams up with Thea, an android connected to the Wayland Yutani Corporation. After the success of Prey in 2022, director Dan Trachtenberg came back to work on two more movies in the Predator franchise. Predator Badlands was announced as one of those upcoming movies and was originally planned to arrive in 2025 following another Predator project. That other movie eventually became Predator Killer of Killers, which also came out in 2025. Predator Badlands had its premiere at the TCL Chinese Theatre on November 3, 2025. The movie was then released in theaters across the United States on November 7, 2025 by 20th Century Studios. The movie got mostly positive reviews from critics, with many people liking its fresh take on the Predator story. Instead of just showing the Predator as a mysterious monster hunting humans, the movie puts the Predator character right at the center of the story. It also brings in a new world, new characters, and a different kind of relationship between the Predator and his unlikely partner. At the box office, Predator Badlands pulled in more than $184 million worldwide, making it another solid entry in the long-running Predator franchise. Dek, played by Demetrius Schuster-Kolamatangi, is a smaller and younger Yautja from their home planet, Yautja Prime. The Yautja are basically the ultimate hunters. They don't see themselves as prey to anybody. They're the ones doing the hunting. Dick has always had a rough relationship with his older brother Kwai. The two have fought many times over Kwai's cloak, but Dek keeps losing. In Yautja culture, a cloak and its cloaking device are a huge deal. They're basically a badge of honor, and young hunters usually aren't allowed to use one until they've completed their first successful hunt. Kawhi tells Deck that his biggest problem is that he fights with anger instead of using his head. To prove that he is ready to become a full hunter, Dick has to choose a target, hunt it down, and bring proof of the kill back home. If he fails, he is not supposed to return. Wanting to earn the respect of his father Nanjora, who is the leader of their clan, Deck chooses a terrifying creature called the Kalisk. It's an apex predator living on the deadly planet Jenna, and even Nanjor is scared of this thing. But before Deck can leave for the hunt, Nanjor shows up and orders Quay to kill his own brother. Nanjor believes Deck is too weak to be part of the clan. Quay refuses to follow the order. Instead, he activates his spaceship and gets Deck ready to escape to Jenna. Quay fights Enjora, but Enjora defeats him and cuts off one of his arms. Dick can only watch as his father finishes the job and kills Quay. While traveling to Jenna, Dick is knocked unconscious. As the ship gets closer to the planet, it runs into a massive field of space debris. The ship starts burning up while entering Jenna's atmosphere, forcing Dick to eject from the ship at a dangerously high altitude. But even before he reaches the ground, flying predators attack his escape pod. After crash landing on Jenna, Dick quickly realizes that this planet is no joke. Almost everything around him wants to kill him. The plants, animals, and creatures are all dangerous. During the crash, Dick loses almost all of his equipment, leaving him with just his plasma sword. While exploring the planet, Dick comes across Thea, played by Elle Fanning. Thea is a damaged android connected to the Wayland Yutani Corporation. Her entire team was wiped out by the Kalisk. Dick finds her trapped inside a giant vulture's nest, and even though he doesn't really trust her, they end up helping each other. Thea helps Dick get through an area filled with deadly plants. But things go sideways when Dick gets stung by one of the plants and starts losing consciousness. Before he passes out, he throws a weapon toward Thea. She manages to break free from the nest and saves Dick from a massive flying predator. Once Dick wakes up, Thea offers to help him track down the Kolisk. She explains that she has a major problem of her own. She's missing the entire lower half of her body. Thea also tells Dick that other Yautja have come to Jenna looking for the Kalisk, but none of them ever made it off the planet alive. Thea explains that she arrived on Jenna about 2 years earlier with her team. She was exploring the planet with her sister Tessa when the Kalisk attacked them. Thea believed Tessa had been killed during the attack. Later, Dick and Thea meet a strange but friendly creature. Thea gives her the name Bud. Bud becomes attached to Dick after he saves her from a wild animal and gives her food. As a way of showing gratitude, Bud marks Dick with her saliva. At one point, Dick tells Thea what really happened to his brother Quai, that their own father killed him. Thea tries to teach Dick a lesson by explaining how wolves work. She tells him that the alpha wolf isn't simply the one that kills the most prey. The real leader is the one who protects the pack. But Dick doesn't fully understand what she's trying to say. He thinks being the alpha means becoming the strongest killer and taking down the most prey. Meanwhile, Thea's sister Tessa is actually still alive. Wayland Yutani androids find her and bring her back to their main base where they repair her, but Tessa is given a serious warning. If she fails her mission to retrieve the company's valuable biological weapons, she will be decommissioned. Tessa is also told that Dick is on Jenna and that he's considered a threat to their mission. She learns that Thea is traveling with him, so she joins a Wayland Yutani team and starts searching for them. The team eventually finds Dick's crashed ship and discovers some of his abandoned equipment, including powerful cryogenic explosives. Later, Thea discovers the remains of her old team near the Kalisk's dam. While trying to repair herself, she tells Dick that the Weyland-Yutani team is coming. The company wants to capture the Kalisk because of its incredible abilities. Thea wants Deck to leave because she believes he can't defeat the creature. Deck feels betrayed and decides to prove her wrong. He goes after the Kalisk alone, armed with nothing but his plasma sword. Deck and the Kalisk get into a brutal fight. Dick manages to cut off the creature's head and tail, and for a moment it looks like he has actually won. But then things get crazy. The Kalisk's body starts regenerating itself. The creature comes back and completely overpowers Deck. Surprisingly, though, it doesn't kill him. Instead, it smells him and decides to spare him before Deck can figure out what's happening. The Weyland-Yutani team arrives. They use cryogenic explosives to freeze both Deck and the Kalisk and capture them. Tessa is thrilled. She congratulates Thithia because the Kalisk's ability to regenerate could potentially be a massive breakthrough for humanity. The company wants to study the creature and use its abilities for their own purposes. Tessa then starts experimenting on Deck. But Thea steps in and tries to convince her that Deck isn't worth keeping around. Tessa sees Thea's emotions and compassion as a weakness. She decides Thea has become a problem and orders her to be deactivated and locked away. But Thea regrets helping the company capture Deke and the Kalisk. So she secretly helps Deck escape during transport. Deck crashes through the forest and eventually discovers Quay's old crashed ship while recovering from his injuries. Deck finally lets out all the anger he's been carrying over his brother's death. That's when he finally understands what Thea was trying to teach him about wolves. Being an alpha isn't about killing the most prey. A real leader protects the people or creatures who are part of his pack. With this new mindset, Deck starts using Jenna's environment to build his own weapons. He creates makeshift explosives, blades, and other tools to help him rescue Thaya. During his journey, Deck reunites with Bud. He then discovers something huge. Bud is actually the child of the Kalisk. This explains why the Kalisk didn't kill Dee earlier. It smelled Bud's saliva on him and realized that Dak had helped its child. Now Dak decides he isn't just going to save Thea, he's also going to save the Kalisk. Dak finds Thea's severed legs and programs them to guide him toward the rest of her body. He and Bud then sneak into the Weyland-Yutani base. The two go absolutely wild inside the facility, taking out guards and making their way through the base. Eventually, they find Thea and free her. Thea reconnects with her missing legs, and Deck reveals the shocking truth. Bud is the Kalisk's child. While Thea and Bud go looking for the Kalisk, Deck stays behind and takes down the remaining guards. Then Tessa shows up. She's wearing a massive power loader mech and is carrying Quay's plasma caster. Tessa is ready to finish Deck once and for all, but Thea manages to free the Kalisk and the massive creature joins the fight. The Kalisk eventually attacks Tessa and swallows her alive. For a moment, it looks like the fight is over. Deck and Bud each share a moment with the Kalisk, showing that they have developed a strange but genuine bond with the creature. But Tessa isn't done yet. From inside the Kalisk's body, she uses cryogenic grenades and Quai's plasma cast to attack the creature from the inside. The combination kills the Kalisk. Tessa then gets ready to kill Thea for betraying the company, but Thea finally cuts ties with Tessa and refuses to see her as a sister anymore. Deck steps in and kills Tessa, taking back his brother's plasma caster. Bud then finishes things off by ripping Tessa's head and spine out of her body. Sometime later, Deck returns to Yodja Prime. He brings Tessa's skull back as a trophy and presents it to his father, Anjur. Deck demands the cloaking device he believes he has earned, but Anjur still refuses. Instead, he orders his guards to kill Deck. This time, though, Deck isn't the weak kid they thought he was. He quickly takes down the guards and challenges his father to a one-on-one fight. Deck defeats Njor, cuts off his arm and traps him using Nanjor's own equipment. Njor realizes that Deck has become powerful and tries to save himself. He offers Deck a place back in the clan and admits that he was wrong about his son, but Deck turns him down. He no longer needs his father's approval. Dick has already found his own kind of family with Thea and Bud. Then something totally unexpected happens. An older and much bigger Bud attacks Neurer and bites his head clean off. Dick takes the cooking device for himself. A fully repaired Thea congratulates him, showing that Dick has finally earned what he wanted all along. But just when things seem finished, and Jorah's remaining clan members suddenly pull out their weapons. Then a huge Yocha spaceship appears on the horizon. Dia looks at the ship and wonders if it's friendly. Deck grabs his sword and gets ready for whatever comes next. Then he reveals the big twist: the ship belongs to his mother. Elle Fanning as Thea and Tessa. Elle Fanning portrays the dual roles of Thea and Tessa, two Weyland-Yutani synthetic androids whose contrasting personalities drive much of the interpersonal and corporate conflict on the planet Jana. Thea functions as the damaged, resourceful companion who forms an alliance with the young Yautja protagonist, while Tessa operates as a more rigid, mission-oriented counterpart aligned with the corporation's objectives. Fanning's performance required her to differentiate the two characters through subtle shifts in posture, vocal cadence, and emotional availability, even when one of the characters spends significant screen time in a physically compromised state. Reports from production indicate that Thea's design frequently placed Fanning in harnesses and partial practical setups so that the upper body could remain expressive, while the lower half was handled through visual effects or practical props carried by the lead performer. Fanning's career trajectory made her a natural fit for a role that demanded both technical precision and emotional accessibility. Born Mary L. Fanning on April 9, 1998 in Conyers, Georgia, she entered the industry as a toddler, first appearing as the younger version of her sister Dakota Fanning's character in I Am Sam, 2001. She continued working steadily through childhood and adolescence in films such as Daddy Daycare 2003, Babel 2006, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button 2008, Sofia Coppola's Somewhere 2010, and J.J. Abrams' Super 8 2011. Her transition into leading adult roles included the Disney fantasy Maleficent 2014 and its sequel, independent features such as The Neon Demon 2016 and 20th Century Women 2016, and the period satire series The Great 2020-2023, in which she played Catherine the Great. The latter role earned her Emmy and Golden Globe nominations and showcased her ability to balance sharp comic timing with intense dramatic commitment, qualities director Dan Trachtenberg specifically cited as aligning with Thea's unflappable, verbally agile personality. In interviews surrounding the film, Trachtenberg described Fanning as both highly analytical and deeply emotional, capable of mining every scene for maximum value. He noted that the physical demands of the role extended beyond dialogue delivery. Fanning had to maintain controlled stillness or sudden animation while wearing harnesses and interacting with practical effects elements designed to sell the idea of a partially disassembled synthetic. Her prior experience with physically expressive roles, combined with the verbal dexterity demonstrated in The Great, allowed her to create a synthetic character who felt lively and reactive rather than purely mechanical. The dual casting also let the production explore themes of corporate identity and program loyalty through a single performer, reducing the need for additional principal actors while sharpening the contrast between the two androids. Fanning's presence further linked the film to broader franchise conversations about the Weyland-Yutani Corporation and its synthetic technology, echoing elements familiar from the Alien series without requiring direct crossover. Her performance as Tessa, in particular, leaned into a colder, more militant intensity that stood in deliberate opposition to Thea's enthusiasm, giving the corporate antagonist a human scale face even when operating through an artificial body. Dimitrius Schuster Kolomatangi as Dek and the voice of Njor Dimitrius Schuster Kolomatangi serves as the central Yautja performer, embodying Dek, the young outcast predator who must prove himself on the hostile world of Jenna. Through a combination of full body suit work, motion capture for facial performance, and vocal work. He also provides the voice for Najor, Dek's father and clan leader, creating a layered father-son dynamic that plays out both in physical confrontation and vocal tension. This dual contribution marked a significant departure from earlier Predator films, in which the titular hunters were primarily antagonists, realized through suit performance and limited vocalization. Shuster Kolwamating was born on February 6, 2001 in Auckland, New Zealand, to a Samoan mother and Tongan father. He grew up in a family oriented toward athletics and initially considered rugby as a possible path. While still in high school at St. Peter's College, he began acting, landing a small role in the 2019 miniseries Jonah. His breakthrough came with the lead role of Will Ilolahia in the 2021 historical drama miniseries The Panthers, which earned him selection for the Toronto International Film Festival's Rising Stars program and a Best Actor nomination at the 2022 New Zealand Television Awards. Subsequent credits included the comedy feature Red, White and Brass 2023 and supporting television work. He later completed a Bachelor of Communication Studies at Auckland University of Technology under the Kiwa Scholarship. The casting process for Dek emphasized physical capability alongside dramatic range. Trachtenberg and the production team sought a performer who could handle the athletic demands of a suit role while conveying vulnerability, determination, and ferocity. An obstacle course audition, described by participants as resembling an American Ninja Warrior style challenge, tested candidates' agility, weapon handling, and overall movement quality. Schuster Kolamatangi's performance on the course stood out for its fluid, almost swashbuckling quality. Trachtenberg later remarked that the actor's physicality surpassed that of many of the professional stunt performers present. Dramatic readings followed, revealing an unexpected emotional depth that convinced the director the actor could carry the film's protagonist. Once cast, Schuster Kolomatani underwent intensive preparation that included learning a constructed Yotja language developed for the production. He demonstrated the ability to absorb new lines quickly, sometimes on the morning of shooting, and to produce the distinctive clicks and vocalizations required. The performance combined practical suit work, allowing for weight, texture, and immediate physical interaction, with digital facial replacement that preserved the actor's underlying expressions. This hybrid approach aimed to give Dek a greater range of emotional readability than previous Predators while retaining the tactile presence of a suited performer. Ruben de Jong performed the suit work for Najor, with Schuster Kolamatangi supplying the voice, further linking the two characters through a single vocal performance. Schuster Koloamatangi's background as a relatively new screen actor of Polynesian heritage also carried representational weight. Earlier franchise entries had rarely placed a predator at the emotional center of the narrative, making Deck the protagonist and casting a performer whose cultural background informed his physical and vocal approach expanded the franchise's casting possibilities. Production notes and interviews consistently highlight the actor's commitment to both the athletic and emotional dimensions of the role, describing him as simultaneously vulnerable and terrifying in character. Supporting performers in suit and creature roles, Michael Homick, credited in some sources as Mike Homick or Michael Homick, performed the suit work for Quai, Deck's older brother and protective mentor figure. Homick's contribution focused on the physical realization of the character during action sequences and interpersonal moments with Deck, while Stefan Grube provided the voice. Grube's dual involvement as voice performer and executive producer editor gave him a unique vantage point on how the character's dialogue would integrate with the overall sound design and pacing. The separation of suit and voice performance allowed specialists to optimize each element. Homick concentrated on movement and presence within the restrictive suit, while Grube shaped the vocal characterization. Ruben de Jong handled the suit performance for Njor Father, the clan leader whose harsh judgment of Deck as a Ront initiates the story's central conflict. De Jong's physical work established the imposing presence of the character, complemented by Schuster Koloamatangi's vocal performance. This division of labor is consistent with long-standing Predator production practices in which multiple performers contribute to a single on-screen yauja. Ensuring both physical authenticity and vocal specificity, Ravi Narayan, also listed as Rohinal Narayan or Rohinal Ravinesh Narayan, portrayed Bud, a native creature of Jenna that forms a bond with Deck. Chris Tahan supplied additional voice work for the character. Bud's design and performance required a blend of practical creature effects and digital augmentation, with Narayan's physical performance providing the foundation for the creature's interactions and emotional beats. The character functions as both comic relief and narrative catalyst, expanding the film's ecosystem beyond the Yawadja and the Wayland Yutani synthetics. Cameron Brown appears as the drone synth, sometimes identified as Smith, a Wayland Yutani synthetic operative. Brown's role contributes to the corporate presence on Jenna and the escalating conflict between the company forces and the protagonists. The performance required the controlled physicality associated with synthetic characters while remaining distinct from Fanning's dual portrayal of Thea and Tessa. Voice performances and specialty casting: Alison Wright voices M. Utech Ewer, the artificial intelligence overseer of the Wayland Yutani operation, and superior to Tessa Wright, born July 12, 1976, in Sunderland, England, and raised by adoptive parents, is best known for her Emmy-nominated performance as Martha Hanson on The Americans, 2013-2017. Additional credits include Marjorie on Sneaky Pete, Ruth Waddell on Snowpiercer, 2020-2024, and roles in Feud and The Accountant. Her experience with complex supporting characters and measured vocal delivery made her a strong choice for an AI that must convey corporate authority, cold calculation, and underlying menace without a physical body. The character's name and function deliberately evoke the MUTUS systems of the Alien franchise, creating intertextual resonance while remaining grounded in the Predator narrative. Matt Duffer and Ross Duffer provide the voice of Quay's ship computer. The twin creators of Stranger Things became involved after Trachtenberg was unable to direct an episode of that series' final season due to overlapping Predator commitments. Their participation functions as both a personal connection and a tonal cameo. The Duffers recorded lines in a stylized, computer like delivery that included Yocha linguistic elements. The choice added a layer of industry camaraderie and lightly humorous texture to the ship's interface without disrupting the film's overall tone. Casting process and directorial vision down, Trachtenberg's approach to casting prioritized performers who could meet the dual demands of physical extremity and emotional authenticity. For the Yodja roles, the production moved beyond simple height requirements that had constrained earlier films and instead sought athletes and stunt capable actors who could move expressively inside the suits. The obstacle course audition for DEC exemplified this priority. Candidates were evaluated not only on completion of physical challenges but on the quality of their movement and the dramatic potential revealed in subsequent readings. Schuster Koloamatangi's combination of athletic fluency and unexpected emotional range proved decisive. For the synthetic roles, Trachtenberg looked for actors who could convey intelligence, wit, and intensity. Fanning's work on The Great demonstrated precisely the blend of verbal agility and emotional commitment required for Thea. The dual casting of Fanning as both Thea and Tessa further streamlined the ensemble while allowing clear differentiation through performance rather than additional principal hires. Casting directors Tina Cleary, Jessica F. Sherman, and Miranda Rivers oversaw the process, balancing the need for specialized physical performers with the requirement for actors capable of carrying nuanced character work. The production's emphasis on practical effects, creature suits, prosthetics, and on-set interaction meant that casting decisions directly influenced the design and execution of the effects. Performers had to be comfortable working under heavy costumes and in close coordination with effects technicians. Gila Dixon's costume design and the creature effects supervised by Alec Gillis and others depended on the performer's ability to inhabit the suits convincingly. Facial performance capture for DEC required Schuster Koloamatangi to deliver expressive work that digital artists could then integrate with the practical head design, creating a hybrid that preserved the actor's intent while achieving the iconic Yocha appearance. Technical integration of performance. The film's casting choices were inseparable from its technical approach. Dick's realization combined a practical suit worn by Schuster Koloamatangi with digital facial animation driven by his performance. This method allowed greater emotional range than pure animatronics or fully digital characters while retaining the physical weight and presence of a suited actor. Similar hybrid techniques applied to other creatures and to the partially disassembled states of the synthetics. Fanning's work with harnesses and partial practical elements for Thea required precise physical control so that visual effects could complete the illusion without undermining the live performance. Voice work for the Yocha language demanded specialized preparation. Schuster Koloamatangi's ability to learn and deliver the constructed language on short notice became a production asset, enabling flexibility on set. Grube's vocal performance for Quay and the Duffers' ship computer work further expanded the sonic palette of the non-human characters. Wright's measured delivery for MUTHUR provided a contrasting human adjacent vocal presence that grounded the corporate elements of the story. Ensemble scale and narrative focus. The overall cast remains relatively compact compared with earlier franchise entries that featured large human ensembles confronting predators. By centering the narrative on Deck and his alliance with Thea, the production concentrated resources on a smaller number of principal performers capable of carrying both action and character development. Supporting roles, suit performers, chief creature adders, ghosts, and voice artists were carefully selected to serve specific narrative and technical functions rather than to expand the human cast. This approach reinforced the film's identity as a story told primarily from the Yautja perspective, while still incorporating corporate and ecological antagonists through the synthetic and creature performances. The casting of Schuster Kolamatangi as the first theatrical Predator protagonist, fanning in dual synthetic roles, and a network of specialized suit and voice performers collectively enabled the film to explore themes of exile, alliance, corporate ambition, and survival within a streamlined yet technically ambitious ensemble. Each performer's background, preparation, and on-set contribution shaped the final realization of characters that operate across the boundaries of practical effects, digital enhancement, and live performance. Predator Badlands 2025 production development and pre-production. The origins of Predator Badlands trace back to the critical and commercial success of Prey, the 2022 installment in the Predator franchise that was helmed by director Dan Trachtenberg. That film's reception was strong enough that Trachtenberg was brought back to steer not one but two further entries in the series, setting the stage for a period of rapid expansion for the Predator property under 20th Century Studios. Badlands was initially described publicly as being scheduled for a 2025 release that would follow another separate Predator film, a project that eventually took shape as Predator Killer of Killers, which itself arrived earlier in 2025. This meant that Trachtenberg was effectively overseeing two Predator productions moving through the pipeline at once, a workload that had real consequences for his other commitments. Notably, he had originally been attached to direct the third episode of the fifth season of Stranger Things, but had to step away from that assignment once Badlands received the green light to move into production. In a nod to this scheduling conflict, the Duffer Brothers, the creative team behind Stranger Things, ended up lending their voices to a small role in Badlands, providing the voice for the onboard computer aboard Quay's ship, a private in-joke acknowledgement of the way the two projects had briefly collided on Trachtenberg's calendar. The project's existence was first confirmed publicly in February 2024 when it was reported that a standalone Predator film titled Badlands was in development. From the outset, Trachtenberg was attached to direct, continuing his run as the franchise's primary creative steward following his work on both Prey and Killer of Killers. The screenplay was credited to Patrick Aison, who had also written Prey, working from a story that Aison developed together with Trachtenberg. Beyond the credited writers, several additional names were attached to the production in a supporting capacity. Brian Duffield, Brian Fuller, Patrick Somerville, and Ben Schwartz all received credit for contributing additional literary material that was not intended for on-screen use, suggesting a broader creative brain trust helped shape elements of the story during development, even though their contributions were not part of the finished screenplay's formal credits. Trachtenberg has been open about the range of influences he drew on while shaping the tone and visual identity of Badlands. He pointed to the painter Frank Frazetta and filmmaker Terrence Malick as key touchstones, an unusual pairing that speaks to the film's attempt to fuse pulpy, muscular fantasy imagery with a more meditative, naturalistic visual sensibility. He also cited the Marvel character Conan the Barbarian and Drax the Destroyer as figures whose physical and thematic qualities informed the design and characterization of the film's Predator protagonist. On the cinematic side, Trachtenberg referenced the 1953 Western Shane, the 1981 post-apocalyptic action film Mad Max 2, and the 2010 film The Book of Eli, alongside the broader body of work of Clint Eastwood's westerns, all of which speak to a desire to frame the story using the structure and iconography of frontier and survivalist storytelling. He additionally named the 2005 video game Shadow of the Colossus as an influence, a title known for its sparse, solitary approach to a story about a lone figure confronting massive, dangerous creatures, a clear thematic parallel to a story about a young predator hunting an apex predator on a hostile planet. Casting news began to emerge as the project moved through pre-production. In June 2024, it was reported that Elle Fanning was in talks to join the film in a dual role, and her casting was formally confirmed 2 months later in August 2024. Fanning's involvement was notable both for the dual role structure of her part and for the fact that her casting would ultimately tie the film story into the broader Alien franchise. Since her characters are androids belonging to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, the same fictional company at the center of the Alien films, originally created by screenwriters Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett for the 1979 film Alien. A defining feature of Badlands' development was its ambition to be a self-contained story set on the Predator's own homeworld with a much deeper focus on the culture, society, and internal politics of the Predator species than any previous entry in the franchise had attempted. This approach drew heavily on the franchise's expanded universe, the novels, comics, and other tie-in material that had developed the mythology of the predators well beyond what the films themselves had shown. As part of this effort to build out predator culture on screen, the production commissioned linguist Britton Watkins to construct a full written and spoken language for the predator characters, one with consistent grammatical rules rather than the more ad hoc vocalizations used in earlier films. Watkins built on fragments and hints from across the franchise's history. The Predator's numerical system was inspired by the self-destruct countdown timer featured in the original 1987 Predator film. The written symbols were developed from glyphs that had appeared in Aliens vs. Predator Requiem 2007, and the spoken language took cues from a brief vocal performance heard in The Predator 2018. Watkins also had to account for the physical constraints and possibilities of a predator's mouth and jaw structure in designing what sounds the language could plausibly produce, as well as incorporating the clicking noises long associated with the species in the franchise's sound design. Badlands also formally introduced two pieces of terminology to the mainline film series that had previously existed only in tie-in material Yautja, used to refer to the predator species itself, and Yautja Prime, referring to their home planet. Both terms originated in the franchise's expanded universe, first appearing in the 1994 novel Aliens vs. Predator, Prey by authors S.T. Perry and Steve Perry, a book that itself spun off from the Alien vs. Predator comic book series published by Dark Horse Comics. Their inclusion in Badlands represented a deliberate effort to fold decades of ancillary Predator lore into the official screen canon. Perhaps the single most significant creative departure Badlands made from the rest of the franchise was its choice to position a predator as the story's protagonist rather than its antagonist. A total inversion of the formula that had defined every prior mainline entry, in which the predator functioned as a hunter stalking human prey. This central character, Deck, is played by stuntman Demetrius Schuster Koloamatangi, who took on the added challenge of learning the newly created Predator language specifically to perform the role. Bringing Deck to life on screen required a hybrid approach to character design. The effects house studio Gillis built a full creature suit to give the character physical presence and scale on set, while his facial performance was enhanced digitally through motion capture animation, allowing for a greater range of subtle emotional expression than a practical suit alone could typically convey. The New Zealand based effects studio Weta Workshop also contributed practical effects and creature design work to the production, lending its expertise in physical creature building to complement the digital work being done elsewhere. Filming principal photography on Badlands got underway in New Zealand, with production confirmed to be active by August 27, 2024. During this stage, the production was operating under the working title Backpack, a common industry practice used to obscure a high-profile project's identity during filming. Shooting continued through the following months and wrapped in late October 2024, giving the production a shooting schedule of roughly 2 months. Cinematographer Jeff Cutter served as director of photography on the film, marking his second collaboration with Trachtenberg after previously shooting Prey together. That prior working relationship gave the production a degree of visual continuity with Trachtenberg's earlier Predator installment. Even though Badlands takes place in a very different setting and register from its predecessor, New Zealand's landscape served as the backdrop for the alien planet Jenna, the hostile, predator-infested world at the center of the film's story, allowing the production to use real natural environments to ground the film's science fiction setting in tangible physical locations rather than relying solely on digitally constructed environments. Post-production, the visual effects work on Badlands was extensive, reflecting the film's heavy reliance on digital creature work, alien environments, and a lead character built through a combination of practical suit work and digital enhancement. Olivier Dumont served as the production's visual effects supervisor, with Kathy Siegel serving as visual effects producer, overseeing the coordination of the film's computer-generated imagery across multiple effects vendors. Those vendors included Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, Weta FX, Rising Sun Pictures, Trickster, Important Looking Pirates, The Yard VFX, and Frame Store, a large roster reflecting the scale and complexity of the FX workload. According to Trachtenberg, the demands of the film's visual effects were so pervasive that every single shot in the finished movie required some form of visual effects work, whether that meant a fully digital creature, an enhanced performance, an augmented environment, or a more subtle digital touch-up. Editing on the film was handled by Stefan Grube and David Trachtenberg, who worked together to assemble the final cut of the picture from the footage captured in New Zealand and the visual effects elements produced afterward. Grube also contributed to the film in a vocal capacity, providing the voice performance for the character of Quay, Deck's older brother, music in October 2025, shortly ahead of the film's release. It was revealed that the musical score for Predator Badlands had been composed by Sarah Schachner and Benjamin Wolfish, working together on the project. Both composers came to Badlands with prior ties to Trachtenberg's work within the franchise. Schechner had previously composed the score for Prey, while Wolfish had worked on Predator, Killer of Killers. Their joint involvement in Badlands effectively linked the scoring approach of Trachtenberg's earlier Predator projects into a single musical through line for his third entry in the series, bringing together two composers who had each already helped define the sound of a different corner of his expanded Predator saga. Release theatrical marketing and promotional efforts for Badlands ramped up well ahead of its release. In June 2025, Disney announced that the film would be given a dedicated Hall H presentation at San Diego Comic-Con later that year, a significant marketing platform reserved for some of the industry's most anticipated genre releases and a signal of how much weight the studio was placing behind the film. The rollout of the film's premieres took place across several cities and formats in the weeks leading up to its wide release. It held its UK premiere at the BFI IMAX in London on October 28, 2025. Its world premiere followed shortly after, taking place at the TCL Chinese Theatre in Hollywood on November 3, 2025. The film then opened theatrically in United States 4 days later on November 7, 2025, distributed by 20th Century Studios. It was released in both Real D 3D and IMAX formats, giving audiences large format and stereoscopic viewing options for a film built heavily around alien landscapes and effects-driven action. One of the more closely watched aspects of the film's release was its rating, Predator. Badlands received a PG-13 rating from the Motion Picture Association, a notable break from franchise tradition, with the sole exception of the 2004 crossover film Alien vs. Predator. Every prior mainline installment in the Predator series had carried an R rating, reflecting the franchise's long-standing reputation for graphic violence. Badlands' PG-13 rating therefore marked a deliberate tonal and commercial shift for the series, opening the film up to a broader audience while departing from the harder-edged approach of earlier entries. Home media Predator Badlands arrived on digital platforms on January 6, 2026, roughly 2 months after its theatrical debut. Physical media followed several weeks later, with the film released on DVD, Blu-ray and Ultra HD Blu-ray on February 17, 2026. The film performed strongly across home entertainment platforms in the United States. On Fandango at Home, it topped the service's weekly digital sales and rental chart for the week ending January 11, immediately following its premium digital release, and held on to the top spot for the following 2 weeks as well, through the weeks ending January 18 and January 25. After that initial run at number 1, the film continued to perform well, remaining within the top 10 of the chart from the week ending February 1 through the week ending March 1. On physical media, the film debuted at number 1 on Circana's video scan chart, which tracks combined sales across all disc formats for the week ending February 21. It also topped the dedicated Blu-ray sales chart that same week and was additionally the best-selling title on 4K Ultra HD disc for the period. Looking at the fuller monthly picture, Badlands finished February 2026 as the number 1 title on the monthly physical media sales chart, and it ranked second on the year-to-date sales chart for 2026 through the end of February. The film's streaming performance was tracked closely as well. According to streaming analytics firm FlixPatrol, which monitors daily VOD charts and streaming rankings globally, Badlands ranked first on the US Apple TV chart for the week ending January 11, A few days later, as of January 13, the film held the top position on multiple on-demand platforms, including Amazon, Apple TV, and Vudu, and was also the number one title in several international markets, among them the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada. Once the film reached Hulu, it recorded 9 million views over its first 5 days of streaming availability there, making it the platform's most watched film premiere since Prey in 2022, a direct callback to the film that had launched Trachtenberg's tenure on the franchise. Nielsen Media Research, which tracks streaming viewership on certain US television screens, reported that Badlands accumulated 587 million minutes of viewing time during the week of February 9 to 15, placing it third among all streamed films for that period. The following week, from February 16 to 22, it recorded 343 million minutes of viewing time, again finishing third. In the subsequent tracking period from February 23 to March 1, the film registered 165 million minutes of viewing time, dropping to ninth place as its streaming momentum gradually cooled. Reception box office sales of the most recent reporting as of January 23, 2026, Predator Badlands had grossed a total of $91.1 million in the United States and Canada, alongside $93. 5 million from other international territories for a combined worldwide total of $184.6 million. That result came against a reported production budget of $105 million, suggesting a solidly profitable outcome for the studio once marketing and distribution costs are factored in alongside theatrical, home media, and streaming revenue. In its domestic release window, Badlands opened alongside several other films, including Die My Love, Nuremberg, Christie, and Sarah's Oil. Ahead of release, industry trackers had initially projected a relatively modest opening weekend in the range of 25 million to 30 million domestically. Those projections shifted upward quickly once real box office numbers began coming in. The film earned $15.6 million on its first day of release, a figure that included $4. $8 million generated from Wednesday and Thursday preview screenings, held ahead of the official Friday opening. That strong first day performance led analysts to raise their estimates for the full opening weekend to a range of $36 million to $38 million, which would already have represented a new box office record for the Predator franchise at that point. The film ultimately outperformed even those revised estimates, debuting to $40 million domestically over its opening weekend. That result surpassed the franchise's previous domestic opening record, which had been held since 2004 by Alien vs. Predator, which opened to $38 million. Internationally, the film added a further $40 million during its debut frame, giving Badlands a combined worldwide opening weekend total of $80 million. Critical response. Predator Badlands received a broadly positive critical reception upon release, marking a high point for the franchise in terms of overall critical goodwill. On the review aggregation site Rotten Tomatoes, the film held an 86% positive rating based on 278 critics' reviews. The site's official critical consensus credited director Dan Trachtenberg with continuing to push the Predator franchise in bold new directions, describing Badlands as a fun, energetic adventure that manages to turn one of cinema's most recognizable villains into a hero audiences can root for on Metacritic, which calculates a weighted average score from critic reviews. The film scored 71 out of 100 based on 43 critics, a result the site classifies as generally favorable. Audience reaction was similarly strong. Polling group CinemaScore reported that audiences gave the film an average grade of A-, the highest score any film in the Predator franchise had received from the service to that point, while ticketing service PostTrack recorded a 78% definite recommend score among surveyed moviegoers. Individual reviews from major outlets reflected a similarly favorable overall tone, though not without some notable dissent. Liz Shannon Miller of Consequence gave the film a grade of A high, framing its approach as a fresh and bold reversal of the franchise's usual perspective. Likening the effect to imagining James Cameron's Terminator 2 told entirely from the point of view of the T-800, Tim Roby of the Daily Telegraph rated the film 4 out of 5 stars, praising its ability to bring a sense of humanity to a story that features not a single human character among its cast. Not every review was positive, however. Abhimanyu Mathur of the Hindustan Times was considerably more critical, describing the film as an unnecessary, uninspired spin off and characterizing its lead character as coming across more like a whiny teenager than a sympathetic underdog, ultimately awarding the film 2 out of 5 stars, though he did credit the underlying choice to center the story on the runt of the litter as a promising idea in principle. Both Luca Fontana of Galaxus and Manola Dargis of the New York Times picked up on a related structural observation, noting how the film effectively reverses the traditional predator and prey dynamic by making the Kalisk, rather than Deck, the story's true underdog figure. French outlet Écran Largis Geoffrey Crétet described Badlands as representing a considerable creative leap forward compared to Trachtenberg's earlier work in the franchise, characterizing the alien planet Jenna as a harshly savage environment brought to life through effects, work he considered high in quality. At the same time, Crétet was more critical of the film's characters, arguing that they remained stock figures serving familiar, well-worn stories about identity and found family. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian was among the more negative voices, awarding the film 2 out of 5 stars and criticizing the way the story humanizes its predator protagonist purely in service of narrative convenience, arguing that in doing so, the film loses touch with what made the Predator concept distinctive in the first place. Elle Fanning's performance drew consistent praise across multiple reviews. Richard Lawson of The Hollywood Reporter described her as a lively, refreshing presence whose performance cuts winningly through the grim, honor-bound seriousness that defines the Predator character's worldview, crediting her with steering the film away from what might otherwise have been an overwhelmingly bleak tone. Dustin Rhodes, writing for Pajiba, likewise singled out Fanning's performance as the element holding the whole film together, praising her comic timing, intelligence, and her handling of striking action sequences involving her character's detachable robotic legs. Matthew Turner of Nerdly gave particular credit to screenwriter Patrick Aison for successfully building sympathy for Deck as a character, well before Thea Fanning's character even appears on screen. Several reviewers focused specifically on the film's visual and technical craftsmanship. Meredith Loftus of Offscreen Central gave the film a B+ grade, suggesting that its visual effects work would likely be the one area of the film to draw meaningful attention during the following awards season. Matt Singer of Screen Crush praised the design of the Deck character in particular, noting that its execution was convincing enough that viewers could simply accept it as a living creature rather than a digital or prosthetic construction. David Crow of Den of Geek credited actor Dimitrios Schuster-Kolamatangi's performance for coming through despite the heavy layers of computer generated imagery and prosthetic work involved, arguing that there was a distinctly human tactile quality visible in the character's eyes that set the performance apart from earlier depictions of predators in the franchise. IGN's Clint Gage scored the film 8 out of 10, praising the creature designs and drawing a comparison to the alien ecosystem seen in the Avatar franchise, describing Jenna as an alien death planet teeming with dangerous plant and animal life. Variety's Peter de Bruges offered a more literary point of comparison, likening the film's plot to a live-action take on Lewis Carroll's poem Jabberwocky, and ultimately named Badlands, the strongest entry in the Predator franchise since the original 1987 film. Alan Ing of Film Threat enjoyed the film's action sequences but felt the overall story lacked deeper meaning, offering one of the more mixed assessments among the reviews the film received. Beyond traditional print and online reviews, Badlands also picked up recognition from several critics groups and awards bodies during the following awards season. The Austin Film Critics Association honored Elle Fanning with its Dual Threat Special Award in December 2025. The Las Vegas Film Critics Society nominated the film for Best Stunts and Best Action Film that same month. At the Saturn Awards in March 2026, the film received nominations for Best Science Fiction Film, Best Film Direction for Dan Trachtenberg, Best Film Editing for Stefan Grube and Dave Trachtenberg, and Best Film Costume Design for Neela Dixon, while Elle Fanning won the award for Best Actress in a Film. The Seattle Film Critics Society nominated the film for Best Action Choreography, recognizing Jacob Tamuri, as well as Best Visual Effects, recognizing Olivier Dumont, Alec Gillis, Sheldon Stopsack, and Carl Rapley. Predator Badlands official teaser trailer related. From Portal to Predator, Dan Trachtenberg breaks down his most iconic shots. Why Predator Badlands needed to be something different, director explains. Predator Badlands review. Predator Badlands official Be Brave Brother clip. The Predator movie timeline in chronological order. Thermal Buzz official trailer. Predator Badlands official trees attack clip. Predator Badlands official international trailer. Why Predator Badlands is set far in the future. Comments. Predator Badlands where to watch. Predator Badlands watch Predator Badlands with a subscription on Disney Plus, Hulu, rent on Fandango or buy on Fandango. What to know. Director Dan Trachtenberg continues to take the Predator franchise in exciting new directions with Badlands, a rollicking adventure that transforms one of cinema's most iconic brutes into a hero worth rooting for. While some purists may miss the primal intensity of the original R-rated classic, Badlands adds surprising layers to deck the new Predator and sets up an exciting future for the iconic franchise. Critics reviews, audience reviews, my rating, cast and crew, Dan Trachtenberg, director Elle Fanning Thea, Demetrius Schuster, Kolomatangi, Deck, Patrick Eason, screenwriter John Davis, producer Brent O'Connor, producer movie clips, Predator Badlands, more like this. Videos Predator Badlands photos, Predator Badlands movie info, Predator Badlands first hunt, last chance release dates, target group details, cast out from his clan. A young predator finds an unlikely ally in a damaged android and embarks on a treacherous journey in search of the ultimate adversary. Official providers videos. Recent news for Predator Badlands, release dates, target group details, similar movies. These videos might interest you. Predator Badlands, images and screenshots. Predator Badlands review summary. Predator Badlands finally lets you see the world through the Yautja's heat-sensitive eyes. Predator Badlands latest content source. Videos, articles, images, reviews. Predator Badlands director Dan Trachtenberg explains why he held his ground on sidekick character Bud, despite his editor telling him he sounded Jar Jar Binks. We've talked about it. Arnold Schwarzenegger teases Conan 3, Commando 2, and a new Predator movie. Predator Badlands lands on digital 4K Steelbook, out February 17. The IGN Community Awards 2025, the best sci-fi or fantasy movie of 2025. Alien. Earth creator officially rules out Predator crossover, so don't expect a Yoacha to pop up in season 2 Predator. Badlands now officially the highest grossing Predator movie of all time, and that includes the Alien crossover films. Disney's Zootopia 2 sets fourth highest global box office opening of all time, behind only Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, and Spider-Man No Way Home. Wicked for Good brings in 226 million at the global box office, fourth biggest opening weekend of 2025. How Dan Trachtenberg helped shape Marvel's Predator Badlands prequel. It's only cool if the journey there is equally worth taking is Predator. Badlands director Dan Trachtenberg, building towards a larger Avenger-style team-up. Predator Badlands sets franchise record with biggest box office opening ever for a Predator movie, including the Aliens vs Predator films. From Portal to Predator, Dan Trachtenberg breaks down his most iconic shots. Predator Badlands, get an exclusive preview of Marvel's official prequel to the new movie. Predator Badlands 1 exclusive preview gallery. Predator Badlands and ending explained. What does next for the series? There's a long history of Alien and Predator crossovers, but they never really counted until now. Dan Trachtenberg tells IGN he's well aware Predator purists may criticize Predator Badlands, but insists retreading and remaking the same thing over and over risks upsetting everyone. Why Predator Badlands needed to be something different, director explains. Predator Badlands review. Predator Badlands emerges as the highest grossing entry in the franchise's 38-year history. Elle Fanning and Demetrius Schuster Kolomatangi's film broke records. Now watch it from home. Here, you're not the predator, you're the prey. 20th Century Studios' Predator Badlands will soon be available to watch in the comfort of your home. Director Dan Trachtenberg helms the latest movie in the Predator franchise by forcing the classic movie monster through a gauntlet Predator. Badlands is officially the highest grossing entry in the franchise's 38-year history, earning $183 million worldwide and beating the previous record holder, 2004's Alien vs Predator, Dong 177.4M. In the film, Elle Fanning stars as Thea, a cyborg missing half her body who teams up with Dek, Demetrius Schuster Koloamatangi, a young predator embarking on his first hunt. Audiences can enjoy multiple bonus features with the limited edition 4K Steelbook, bonus features, deleted and pre-revisation scenes with optional audio commentary. Sand Trap, an early animatic version of Dek's very different first encounter with Thea. Squirt Canyon, the full version of Dek and Thea traversing the water-filled trench while trying to survive Jana and each other. Tessa vs. Abe. Tessa faces off against a superior synth in this deleted scene and storyline Razor Grass, the original pre-visualization of Dek, Thea and Bard's first hunt together, sort of. The outpost Thea takes Dek to a small Wayland Yutani field facility where they experience a few things that ended up being used elsewhere in the final film. Super Power Loader extended special additional moments during Deke's climactic final battle with the Super Power Loader and the Kalisk featurettes. Embodying the Predator, meet the talented team of designers, performers, and effects artists responsible for bringing one of cinema's most terrifying creatures to life on screen in ways we've never seen before. authentic synthetics, get up close and personal with Cynthia and Tessa as star. Elle Fanning walks us through the process of crafting two characters who may look the same but have evolved in surprisingly unique ways. Building the Badlands with razor sharp grass, killer trees, and terrifying animals, never has a planet been more deadly than Jenna. Uncover how a team of artisans built this threatening landscape, transforming real locations into the dangerous environments seen on screen deck of the Yawajja. For the first time ever, director Dan Trachtenberg has given audiences an extended peek at Predator culture. Follow the evolution as filmmakers reveal the process behind developing the Yachtja's homeworld, spacecraft, and family dynamics. Audio commentary. Watch the film with audio commentary by director Dan Trachtenberg, producer Ben Rosenblatt, director of photography Jeff Carter, and stunt coordinator Jacob Tomuri. Bonus features may vary by product and retail. Buy Predator Badlands January 6 on digital and own it on 4K Ultra HD. Blu-ray and DVD February 17. The Walt Disney Company is the parent company of 20th Century Studios and this ABC station. Related topics, arts and entertainment. On the red carpet moves 20th Century Study US. On the red carpet, 2026 Emmys, breakouts and fan favorites compete for top TV prize. 1 hour ago, everything to know about Disney's ultimate fan event. 1 hour ago, Disney F1 extend collaboration through 2028. New trailer drops for season 2 of Glenn Powell's Chad's Top Stories. Officers fire at armed suspect accused of shooting multiple cars. HPD. 33 minutes ago, multiple EB lanes closed on I-10 after Houston Ave bridge hit TX Tote. 12 minutes ago, hot with a few showers possible Friday 2 hours ago. 30 years after Houston jeweler's murder, his killer set for execution. Juvenile hurt after stabbing in NW Harris. PCT forces. Army identifies 2 Fort Hood pilots killed in Apache crash. 30 minutes ago, firefighter accused of setting fires from 2020 through 2025. Chief says suspect quit police job amid unrelated investigation. Predator Badlands review. Predator Badlands. Since taking over the Predator franchise, Dan Trachtenberg has been like a kid in a grisly candy store. Not content with merely repeating the age-old formula, a band of humans face down an alien warrior. He's gone buck wild with the possibilities. First sending the Predator back in time to battle a female Native American in Prey, then chucking in Vikings, samurai, and World War II pilots in animated anthology, Killer of Killers. For his latest trick and his most ambitious, by far he's headed into space. Oh, and this time the spine-ripping creature with mandibles is the good guy. The latter alone is a truly audacious swing, taking an iconic 80s villain and asking the audience to root for him. Imagine a movie told from the POV of Gary Busey's Mr. Joshua from Lethal Weapon. Not only that, but the Predator speaks entirely in a grunted alien tongue, helpfully translated via subtitles. But here somehow it works and gangbusters. A prologue introduces us to young Deck Demetrius Schuster Kolamatangi, who may be 8 feet tall and bristling with futuristic weaponry, but is considered a shrimp by his bully dick of a dad. Deck is quickly dispatched to an even more death-happy world, where, to borrow a line from Avatar, every living thing that crawls, flies, or squats in the mud wants to kill him and eat his eyes. For Juju, the start of a thoroughly entertaining adventure, which feels like a particularly pulpy sci-fi novel from the 60s brought to life and beamed into your eyeballs, a geeky commingling of lurid sci-fi, comedy, and rowdy action. Dick's objective is pleasingly simple: to kill the most badass thing on this planet, namely the unkillable Kalisk, a giant beast that chomps anything it sees. But achieving this is complicated. not only by the fact that even the grass in this place is deadly. Trachtenberg has particular fun conjuring up fatal flora, but that he is soon forced to team up with a perky Wayland Yutani synthetic Elle Fanning, or at least half of one, since her legs have been taken by the Kalisk. What seems like the kind of daft double act that would be dreamed up by a sci-fi giddy 14-year-old boy, a predator teams up with a robot, quickly becomes extremely winning. With the surly star beast, the straight man, and the android his yappy foil, and before long they are joined by a blue monkey-like alien sidekick to complete the gang. Die-hard Predator fans might be choking with indignation by this point. The creature once hyped up with the words, "There's no stopping what can't be stopped, no killing what can't be killed," made softer, gentler, and even the butt of jokes. There's a possibility some Burke might even be inspired to write a think piece lamenting that the Predator has gone woke. But there's no doubt that Trachtenberg is steeped in love for this green-blooded action icon, and he comes up with one cheer-worthy moment after another for both of his lead characters. There's a bit with the pulse rifle, yes, the pulse rifle from Aliens, that will surely blow the mind of any child of the 80s, while Fanning gets an inspired action sequence involving her top half and her legs independently battling goons. More than anything though, Predator Badlands has heart. Not something anyone was necessarily expecting from a film featuring this character, but it works. There are shades of Guardians of the Galaxy here, as the truly misfit team take on impossible odds. The Guardians' parallels extend to the visuals, with pumped up battles against alien beasties here. The film is a little less successful. Badlands lacks the wear in space wow factor of the Avatar films, with a slight feeling of numbness setting in when blobby CGI monsters take center stage. This, though, is a relative quibble when our unlikely heroes make for such surprisingly delightful company, learning to work together and master their environment while still racking up a kill count higher than any in the franchise. Throwing sins into the mix allows Trachtenberg to indulge in his most bloodthirsty tendencies, since that blood is white, not red, while still allowing the film to come in as a 12A. Throughout its runtime, Badlands is big popcorn fun, a geeky commingling of lurid sci-fi comedy and rowdy action that gets high off its own supply. Put it this way: if you've ever wanted to see a tooling up sequence featuring a Predator, Christmas has come early. Related articles: movies, though 903 2026, movies 24 though 9 2025, movies 2309 2025, movies who's 2207 2025, movies 3006 2025. Predator Badlands Elle Fanning's theatizes darkest future in the alien universe. There are no people in Predator Badlands, only Elle Fanning, and that's terrifying. Share on Facebook, opens in a new tab. Share on X, opens in a new tab. Share on LinkedIn, opens in a new tab. Share on email, opens in a new tab. Whoever wins, we lose. Not much was good about the Alien vs Predator movies, but that tagline for the first entry is an all-timer. Conversely, Predator Badlands is much better than either of those crossover flicks. Even so, it doesn't have a tagline like "whoever wins, we lose." But then again, there is no "we" in Badlands. Not a single human being appears in a frame of the latest Predator flick. Instead, most of the movie features the eponymous Yodja, Dek Demetrius Suster Koloa Matangi, fighting against the various beasties on the dangerous planet Jenna, and the characters who do appear human-like Most notably, the sisters Thea and Tessa, both played by Elle Fanning, are in fact synthetic androids, specifically since made by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, with Badlands also being set further into the future than any previous alien adjacent flick. The new movie shows us something scarier than any of the previous xenomorph films: a world without humans. This isn't to diminish Alien or Aliens, still two of the best sci fi movies ever made. Rather, Badlands fully realizes the dystopian vision of the future that Ridley Scott and James Cameron began in those pictures. In Scott's Alien, the crew of the star freighter Nostromo lives in the shadow of the company, a faceless organization that deems them expendable when there's an opportunity to make money. Their interests are even stated plainly and coldly by a secret robot the corporation planted on the ship so as to protect company interests. Aliens gives that company a face in the form of Burke Paul Reiser, but he best represents Wayland Yutani in his willingness to, in one character's words, fuck each other over for a goddamn percentage. Simply put, the company doesn't care about the humans involved. When Scott returned to the franchise for Prometheus and Alien Covenant, he raised that point to apocalyptic levels. Not only do those movies show that the engineers who created humans also hate the people they made, but also that the since the humans created are ready to displace us at the first opportunity. In short, the alien universe has repeatedly warned that human beings are on the verge of becoming an endangered species due to the machines and artificial intelligences we make. Add a content continues below. In Predator Badlands, it seems that the warning was not heeded. While the film does not explicitly state that humanity has gone extinct, Badlands does take place in the far future, and their absence is conspicuous. The sole mention of people occurs in an offhand comment when Thea explains why a synth would be sent on a mission by Wayland Yutani. Observing that no one from the company could face the challenges of exploration half as well as she could, outside of that, no one even seems to think about humanity.